Hello and welcome to the Public Affairs Show on WRBH 88.3 FM. We are in New Orleans, and it's a new year, a new you for many of you. Of course, many of our listeners are visually impaired. We are the radio station for the blind and for the visually handicapped, and have been providing this service for more than 50 years. Our guest today is James LaValle, who is going to be here to help us shed some light on what he calls the exercise challenge. If you are into an exercise program, which the new year brings many of us into that new realm, how do you keep from getting sore? How do you keep on track with your exercise program? If you've not started one, or if you're into one and you want to bring it to a higher level, Jim is the expert. I'm going to say a few more things about you, Jim, before I let you talk. Jim is a clinical pharmacist, author, board-certified clinical nutritionist with more than 40 years' experience in metabolic and integrative medicine. He's chief science officer, has been for lifetime, and CEO of Metabolic Code Enterprises. He's also the academic and clinical co-chair for the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine, chair of the International Peptide Society, having trained thousands of healthcare professionals on the value of integrative health programs. Jim and his team provided that information. Jim, give us an update. Is all of that still correct?
Well, that is right on.
Good.
I'm very busy.
You're a busy man. And are you an exerciser? Do you exercise a couple times a week? What do you do?
I've been exercising since the age of 13. I usually train 6 days a week, but not always intensely. So some days are lighter days, some days are heavier days, doing different things. I'm 64 years old, so for me it's super important to stay fit, especially when I'm getting in front of large crowds of doctors and telling them how they need to age gracefully. So I better look the part.
I know what you're talking about. You're talking to a about to be 72-year-old male. I have a trainer. I work out 3 times a week, one time with Zoom with the trainer. Sometimes she comes live to my backyard. The other 2 days, she writes me up sort of a CrossFit program. And we're just trying to keep our upper bodies strong so that we can, as you say, stay fit, stay healthy, keep our immune system strong. What are your greatest tips for people who are already on a program? And
I think the biggest thing is understanding your soreness. So if you're already training regularly, but you're noticing more delayed onset muscle soreness, that's known as DOMS, then there's some things that you should be considering. Are you working out too hard? Are you trying to take on more than your body's capable of? That would be a big one. And a lot of times the things that influence that is, what's your diet like? Are you getting enough sleep? There's obviously tactics to help get through that soreness. So, whether it's using a roller, which is real popular now. You can get rollers, and you can, roll on your legs. You can get those massage guns that you can actually work your muscles before and after you work out for a few minutes. Always great to go to get a massage. That just costs more, so some people can afford to get a massage, frequently, which is really good.
Right.
But if you can't do that, you get a massage done pretty inexpensively, or you can get a roller really cheap, and you can do those kind of things physically to help you to get through the soreness. And then, of course, the older you get, the more you're prone to get sore. And then, there's some interesting nutrients that can help people, not just to maintain, better productivity with their exercise and training, but those nutrients could have expanded benefits as well, right? You could do other things.
So you're talking about things you put into your body, drinks and food?
Yeah, nutrients that you could take. I mean, obviously eating, you want a diet rich in vegetables, especially dark leafy greens. Make sure you get adequate protein adequate protein being somewhere between probably zero point 0.6 and up to a gram of protein per pound body weight, depending how much you're training. You just have to remember, muscle's the currency of aging, right? The more we maintain our muscle, we don't have sarcopenia. Like you at 72, training 3 times a week, keeping your muscles active, that's really going to be helping people as they age, maintaining lean muscle mass. So you need to eat protein and hydrate as well.
Hydrate, of course, and we'll get back into that. But if you're a vegetarian and you're not eating meat or fowl, a lot of people in New Orleans obviously are pescatarians because of all the great seafood. But where do you get the protein if you're not doing the meats?
Yeah, so that's where you can utilize things like plant-based protein powders. If you want to just eat the food, that's that combination of legumes and grains, right? Beans and rice. Beans and rice create a complete protein. The only thing you got to watch there is if you're taking in a lot of starch, sometimes people will gain weight because they're taking in too many carbohydrates and creating more, a higher glucose level. So just being responsible about that, as well as eating nuts, seeds. So if you're vegan or if you're a vegetarian and you're eating dairy, that certainly allows you to get some protein in.
Right.
But if you're also vegan and not having any animal source of protein like a dairy compound, then that's where you got to, you can get. I think the plant-based protein drinks are great for people because they're convenient and they're easy for them to get that extra serving of protein in a day. They don't always want to cook an extra meal or anything like that, because if you're exercising regularly, you got to make sure you're eating enough.
Right.
And so that's where you get it. And then you still just, I would say, if you're, vegan, then, supplement with at least a B vitamin, especially for vitamin B12. And then sometimes a lot of people don't realize you lose carnitine and CoQ10 many times in vegan diets. And, of course, CoQ10 real important for helping your muscles to function and have strength because they're involved in, the mitochondria producing energy.
Okay. Now you're talking to people in the New Orleans area. Of course, we broadcast worldwide, but a lot of our listeners are in New Orleans, which is the land of red beans and rice. That's the Monday meal for everybody. And so you're saying add to that a good green salad when you're doing your red beans and rice. A lot of people put ham hock or sausage in their red beans and rice. Those who are avoiding the meats just do it vegetable-wise. So adding to that, adding the green vegetables is what's going to help you have the full balance that you need, right?
Yeah, it's going to help you with the mineral content you need because, you need that magnesium when you're exercising regularly, real important. And, it's interesting, garlic, garlic's great for you. A study that was just done on aged garlic extract, this was by a Dr. Karen Reed, looked at aged garlic extract, and when she gave it to people that were training over the age of 40, it really helped them to perform better because it improved their oxygenation of their muscle tissue and reduced their muscle fatigue recovery time so that they got over their muscle soreness quicker. And the other benefits to aged garlic extract is, of course, it helps with, blood pressure. There's 5 human trials with UCLA School of Cardiology that showed that it helps to reduce blood pressure. I would say normalize blood pressure. If it's high, it brings it down. No issue if your blood pressure tends to run low normal. It's not going to lower it more. But that's because it improves the elasticity of your blood vessels. As well as helping to reduce vulnerable plaque formation. So aged garlic extract.
And how do they market that? Is it a pill or a liquid, or what is that?
You can get it. It's a capsule, a tablet, or a liquid. That's it's called Kyolic, Kyolic. And it's got a tremendous amount of different benefits. Even supports the immune system. They found that it helps to increase what's called the gamma delta T killer cells that are made by your body, and those are the T killer cells that go out there and fight off colds and flus, right? So that aged garlic is a really interesting thing for people who are exercising because the other thing that happens when you exercise, sometimes if you've overtrained, as your immune system can get a little bit weak, and then you can be more prone to colds or flus. That's a kind of side effect of overtraining. And that's why it's important that, if you're, in my opinion, why I like aged garlic is, it helps with blood pressure, helps with that vulnerable plaque stuff, helps with improving blood flow to your organs and tissues, and helps your immune system. So it's a, very nice Swiss Army knife type of nutrient that's out there.
And that's something that's readily available at the drugstore, or you have to go to a...
Yeah, you got a lot of stores, real big in health food stores. Some drugstores carry it as well. So Kyolic, Kyolic would be what they would look for. The other one, I do a lot of education for teams, professional sport teams or leagues. And, one of the talks I gave a while ago at the NBA Summit was about the microbiome and the fact that the harder you work out, it can compromise your microbiome. And so that is an interesting concept, because what they found is what they gave probiotics, so that can also be beneficial. So, it reduces inflammation, which is going to reduce soreness, but also keeps your immune system stronger, because 70% of your immune system is in your gut. And so, if, maybe you've got constipation, or maybe your stools are loose, or maybe you're just gassy and bloated, right?
Right.
Those kind of things can lead to the thought of, well, maybe a probiotic with some fiber would be helpful. And I think, today, it's getting pretty recognized that maintaining microbiome health is incredibly important.
And probiotics, that's also something in a pill form? Give us a little definition of probiotics.
Yeah. You could get probiotics in a pill. You could get probiotics in a powder that you drink. Certainly you could eat foods that are higher in beneficial flora, so things like sauerkraut. Fermented foods will have probiotics in them, so that can be good. If you're not sensitive to cow's dairy, like I'm sensitive to cow's dairy, I eat cow's dairy and I get mucusy, so I can't eat regular yogurt, but I can get like an oat milk yogurt, or some people can get coconut milk yogurt. It's a little higher in saturated fat. But you can get it that way. So you can, kimchi is another one that's, a fermented food that's very popular and, helps the beneficial flora of the gut.
And
so those are good.
And those probiotics
are really good.
Those probiotics are also good for the immune system as well, keeping you from getting a cold?
Yeah. In general, probiotics will definitely help. That it'll reduce your total cold symptom number of days and the veracity of the symptoms, as well as the fever, because you have to remember that probiotics are dictating your immune health in your gut, and 70% of your immune system comes from your gut. So really, probiotics are another one that's really good. People don't think about for exercise, but we know that the more you exercise, if you're somebody that's training, say, over an hour a day, maybe you're a runner or something like that, well, you can tend to kind of weaken that microbiome and disrupt it and break it down, and that can trigger inflammation. And over time, it's well known that, say, for example, marathon runners, after they do an event, they get upper respiratory tract infections. And so, when you're, the harder you train, the more you need to work to recover. I would say another interesting compound that can help people with their muscle soreness and their resiliency for their immune system. And look, these are nutrients I think that are really good for people to take in general. So it just also helps with exercise. Plant sterols and sterolins, they're basically plant fats. Okay. And plant fat glucosides. Really interesting. They've been out for a long time, originally just given for general immune health. And that's because they're a food, basically, that helps to keep the immune system in balance. So, if your immune system's overstimulated, it helps to cool it down. If it's not working hard enough, it helps to bring it up. They showed in athletes that it reduced upper respiratory tract infections, after their marathon runs when they took sterols and sterolins. You'd have to eat a lot of vegetables to get sterols and sterolins. So, there's the one compound that that has the studies behind it. It's called Moducare, as in modulate, Moducare, Moducare.
Mm-hmm.
And really another interesting compound. But, there's things you can do as lifestyle choices, too, things that are unexpected. I know in New Orleans, people love having a nice cup of coffee, like that strong morning coffee.
Yeah.
And that turns out to be really good for exercise soreness. It's kind of crazy.
Both before and after a workout, coffee?
Better. I mean, in the study, in the Journal of Pain, they had a study that published that showed that, if they drank coffee before their workout, so pre-workout caffeine, reduced muscle soreness and fatigue about 48%, almost 50%.
Wow.
So, don't drink a jug of coffee, don't have a ton of caffeine, but having some caffeine actually helps out. Now, there are the people that, when they drink caffeine, their body doesn't metabolize it well and it keeps them up all night.
Right.
So you got to, at least if you're that person, then maybe you don't want to take this tip.
And does it make a difference what time of day you do a workout? Because, you drink your morning coffee and then you go for your workout. That just
you
fits in
probably
easily.
want to do it within about an hour of your workout. So ideally, you drink that cup of coffee about an hour before your workout.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a half hour to an hour is fine. And then we already talked about the fact that, and it's interesting. Everybody thinks coffee dehydrates you. Another study in a big-time journal, and this was like almost a decade ago on this journal, that coffee actually hydrates. It doesn't dehydrate. And so that also helps with muscle pain, with hydration. So, getting dehydrated, can create more of that delayed onset muscle soreness, because when you dehydrate, you usually get rid of your magnesium, and magnesium is pretty darn important for getting rid of that lactic acid in your muscle. I'm a big believer that people should take some extra magnesium, because nobody's eating enough green leafy vegetables.
Right.
If you got your beans and rice, there may be a little bit of mustard greens or something, or collard greens in there sometimes, right? Depending on where you're getting that.
Right.
But there's not enough people that are, eating, nice helpings of greens.
Right. Or a big bowl of coleslaw with your red beans and rice.
Oh, so good. Okay. You're making me want to go visit Louisiana now, because I love red beans and rice, and I love coleslaw, and I love kale, and I love mustard greens.
There we go. Well, we have a tradition here. I think it's maybe nationwide, of eating black-eyed peas and stewed cabbage or greens for New Year's. So everybody's just off of that, having a big old bowl of collard greens or mustard greens to go with your black-eyed peas. I know you work with a lot of sports athletes and sports teams. And here in New Orleans, we've just come off of a bruising, grueling Saints season where there were so many injuries and so many mistakes. And, we had an interim coach and everything just seemed to go wrong. Do you have any suggestions for team sports like that? How do you keep people from getting injured to begin with? And then I know that your expertise is quick recovery, so that's exactly what we're talking about. But any suggestions for the Saints or the losing football teams this year?
No, I mean, I think, look, in general, when athletes are breaking down too much, sometimes it's just a freakish accident, right? In football, you can plant wrong, and then you see those non-contact injuries, right? The ACL tears and that kind of stuff. Well, it turns out that some of that could be just because of being overtrained, and then that tendon or ligament gets, gets weakened. And sometimes that could be, I always say there's the intersection between your biochemistry and your biomechanics, right? So if your biochemistry has some low-grade inflammation in it, and that could be due to deficiencies of vitamins or nutrients or the type of diet that you're eating, maybe not getting good sleep, right? There's a lot of factors that could create that low-grade inflammation. So I always, really believe in more of precision approach to looking at the labs of their athletes, finding out where is their imbalances. Is there any low-grade inflammation? Where are their electrolytes at? Are they at the high end or the low end of their electrolytes? What's the training stance? And I have a lot of, coaches that I know that are becoming very proactive about starting to kind of monitor their athletes. Where is their recovery at? Where is their heart rate variability at? Do they need a rest day? They need to reduce the workload 50%. And the other thing that, to realize is, this is it's a team sport and it's a professional sport where people are being paid to basically exercise and then perform.
Right.
And and a lot of that has to do with the tactics of individual teams. Some teams are very proactive on managing the nutrition of their players and testing them and looking for how they can optimize them at every opportunity. And then there's other teams that may be more oriented at, hey, look, here's training table food, and we're going to be proactive on the biomechanics, stretch you, make sure that your movements are good, your movement patterns are good, and that you're strong. We're going to train you. But it's that like gray area of, is that person overtrained? Are they conditioned well? And that's the area that's, I think, a little bit tough. And sometimes, like I said, contact sports and non-contact injuries, it's thought that there was one estimate out of one study that showed that as much as 50% of the injuries in sports were due to imbalances in nutrition. So when you think of muscle tears and low electrolyte status, ligaments, bone density issues, stress fractures, imbalances in nutrition.
Right.
So I always like the Saints. So it's a good team, great work ethic. And it's tough when you have a lot of injuries pile up, and it does create kind of leads to a tough season.
Definitely. And of course,
the Bengals were another one that had that this year, really, talented team, but man, they had a lot of injuries.
Yeah. And of course, New Orleans, we've been to the mountaintop, and it's hard to fall down off of that mountain and go so far below it. So we've been talking about people.
No doubt.
We've been talking about people who do exercise all the time. In the last couple of minutes we have left, some suggestions for people who are leery or nervous about starting an exercise program as we start 2025. What do you suggest?
Well, I think, first of all, start simple. If you need to get evaluated by a trainer, get with a fitness instructor or a professional trainer who can evaluate you appropriately for your age group and your level of capacity.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't do any good to go into somebody who's going to start doing an advanced training program on you, and you're going to get sore and you're going to get discouraged, and you're probably not going to go back because it was too hard on you.
Right.
So I always recommend, if nothing else, get started. If you're not trained at all in a long time, first of all, get a physical, get a blood test, make sure everything's okay there. Where's your blood pressure at? But then start with walking. It's very well established that 30 minutes of walking 6 days a week reduces your risk of diabetes and heart disease. That's American Heart Association information.
Exactly.
Very conservative information. But if 30 minutes is too long, start with 15. I always say, it's the longest journey starts with one step, and you're trying to establish a lifestyle habit, right?
Right.
And that lifestyle habit of including movement, if you haven't been doing it, maybe 15 minutes a day. If you miss a day, don't go down on yourself. Just get back on the horse and then expand that time. Get a little stretching in, but I really suggest people they get evaluated. And that's what we do, as the chief science officer at Lifetime. We've got close to 200 facilities, and we're very big on the plus 55 population and helping people to kind of get started, get their results, but to do it safely. And I think you got qualified people, all over the country that are certified.
Yeah.
But maybe get a recommendation. Get a recommendation from one of your friends.
And you can do that without joining a gym, right? You can just find somebody to evaluate you or go see your doctor. And, of course, that age-old suggestion of park as far away from the door of the shopping center as you can, and then walk around the mall in perfect temperature, that might be a way to begin it, right?
It sure can work that way. Now, right now, I'm in Minneapolis today, and it's 0 degrees, and so I'm probably going to look for that close parking spot. But but the temperature's regulated on the inside of that mall, and I'm certainly going to do that. I think anything you can do to start to create movement, even if it's chair squats in your house. I can't get to the mall. Wherever your weather is at, you can do movements even in your home. Just getting up and walking around your house. Just move. Sitting is the new smoking, as Kelly Starrett, someone I know that's written great books like Becoming a Supple Leopard. Sitting is the new smoking. I think that's a great term. We've got to get up and move. It's why our smartwatches are telling us to get up. We get these warnings. It's time to get up. If you're wearing a smartwatch, right? Get up.
Right.
And also time to breathe, which I think is interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
And have you thought about the visually impaired? Is there any special trick or special instructions if you're having trouble, if your vision is going away, if you are blind or partially blind, you can still be an exerciser. Is that correct?
Well, you can still exercise, right? I mean, whether it's you're getting assisted onto a bike, a treadmill that's used appropriately. But once again, it's all about stability in that case, right? Making sure that you're doing things that are stable,
right.
For your strike. That's the part that's really important.
Excellent. All right, wrap up. Tell us where people can get more information about you and about all the things we've discussed today. Where should they go?
If they're interested in like the supplement side, like the Kyolic, I know they've got a great website, kyolic.com. They have all the science and all that literature up on that. If they're interested in the things I've said, JimLaValle.com, LaValle, or The Real Jim LaValle on Instagram. I post a lot of educational information on my Instagram. So, going over studies, giving people tips. So those are 2 areas.
Excellent. Thank you, Jim. Clinical pharmacist, author, board-certified clinical nutritionist, more than 40 years of experience. We thank you for spending time with us on WRBH 88.3 FM, New Orleans.
Thank you.
Thank you.